I never thought pain could have a taste, but that night, I tasted it. It was bitter, raw, and sharp, like swallowing broken glass. The sight before me made my knees wobble, my heart pound so loudly I could hear it echo in my ears. There, on the bed we had shared for over 20 years, lay my husband, entwined with another woman. For a moment, I thought my eyes were deceiving me. Maybe I was hallucinating. Maybe this was a cruel nightmare, and I would wake up any second. But no. The silk sheets that I had neatly arranged that morning were now a tangled mess, their naked bodies glistening under the dim bedroom light. The woman, young, probably in her late 20s, gasped and scrambled to pull the sheets over her body. But my husband, he just stared at me. He didn't flinch, didn't stammer, didn't even look guilty. He simply sat up, as if I had caught him doing something as casual as reading a book. I clutched the doorknob, my breath coming in shallow gasps. "Michael," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "What? What is this?" He sighed, rubbing a hand over his face, then let out a slow, exasperated breath, as if I was the one disturbing him. "I can explain," he said. "Explain? Explain what? How do you explain breaking vows, shattering trust, destroying 2 decades of love?" My fingers trembled, my entire body quivering as I took a step forward. "You can explain?" My voice cracked as a tear escaped my eye. "You can explain how you brought another woman into our home?" Into our bed. The woman, his side chic, cleared her throat and hurriedly picked up her dress from the floor. I should go," she mumbled, avoiding my gaze. I let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, please, don't be in such a hurry. You were comfortable enough in my bed. Stay a little longer. Maybe you'd like some tea?" She shot a glance at Michael, as if seeking permission to leave. He nodded, and she bolted past me, the scent of her floral perfume lingering in the air. And then, it was just the two of us. I felt like a volcano on the verge of eruption, a storm about to unleash its wrath. My hands curled into fists as I took a deep breath. "How long?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. Michael ran a hand through his graying hair. "Does it matter?" I let out a humorless chuckle. "Does it matter?" My heart clenched painfully. "It matters, Michael. It matters because I gave you everything. 20 years of my life. I stood by you when you had nothing. I watched you rise in your career, raise our children, build this home. And now, after all of it, this is what I get." His expression remained unreadable. "Sandra," he said softly, "I never meant for you to find out this way." Something inside me snapped. "So if I hadn't caught you, you would have just continued? Lying to me every day? Sleeping next to me every night while sneaking around with her?" He sighed, shaking his head. "It's not that simple." I clenched my jaw. "It is, Michael. You made a choice. A conscious, deliberate choice to betray me." Silence stretched between us. The weight of 20 years pressed on my chest like an anchor, suffocating me. My legs felt weak, and I staggered toward the chair near the dresser, sinking into it as my vision blurred with tears. "Did you ever love me?" I whispered, his lips parted, but no words came out. And that silence was louder than any confession. I sat there, staring at the man I had loved for over 2 decades, the man I had built my world around. The silence between us was thick, suffocating. His refusal to answer my question was an answer in itself. My chest tightened, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly alone. "Michael," I said again, my voice softer now, weaker. "Did you ever love me? Or was it all a lie?" He rubbed his temples, exhaling loudly. "Sandra, of course I loved you, loved." Past tense, the realization hit me like a dagger straight to the heart. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the pain wash over me. My mind raced back to the early years, the laughter, the late-night conversations, the way he used to hold me so tight as if he never wanted to let go. When did it change? When did I become not enough? "You loved me," I repeated bitterly. "And now? What am I to you now?" He hesitated. You're my wife. I let out a hollow laugh, shaking my head. No, Michael. A wife is someone you cherish, someone you respect, someone you don't betray in her own home. My voice cracked on the last word, my throat tightening. Who is she? His jaw clenched. Sandra, who is she? I snapped, standing up so fast my chair scraped against the wooden floor. How long have you been seeing her? How many times have you lied to my face while sneaking off to be with her? Michael exhaled sharply. It's not what you think. Oh, so you didn't just sleep with her in our bed? I scoffed, my voice laced with sarcasm. Because that's exactly what it looked like. He looked away, unable to meet my gaze. That was when I knew this wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was a choice. I turned away from him, pressing a hand against my forehead as I tried to steady my breath. My world was spinning. Everything I had believed in, everything I had built with this man, was crumbling before my eyes, and he stood there, silent, like my pain meant nothing. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I had cried enough. I had given this man everything. My youth, my dreams, my devotion. And this was how he repaid me? I looked at him again, really looked at him. The man I had married at 25 was not the man standing before me now. He was a stranger, a selfish, unrecognizable stranger who had tossed me aside for something newer, younger. You disgust me, I whispered. His eyes flickered with something, shame, regret, or maybe just irritation that I had caught him. I need some time, I murmured. To think. I walked past him, feeling his gaze on my back, but he didn't stop me. He didn't even try. And that hurt more than anything. I don't remember walking down the stairs. I don't remember grabbing my purse or slipping into my car. My hands trembled as I gripped the steering wheel, my vision blurred with unshed tears. Where was I even going? I drove aimlessly through the streets of New York, the city lights blurring together like a painting smeared by careless hands. The pain in my chest grew heavier with each passing second. At a red light, I finally let the tears fall. My body shook with silent sobs, my shoulders quivering as I tried to keep myself together. But how could I? I had spent 20 years believing I had a happy marriage. That my husband loved me. That we were a team, partners, soulmates. I was wrong. How many times had he kissed me after being with her? How many times had he looked me in the eye and lied? I pressed my forehead against the steering wheel, trying to breathe, trying to think. But my mind was a mess, memories flashing before me like a cruel movie I couldn't turn off. The nights he came home late. The sudden secretive phone calls. The change in his cologne. The way he had stopped noticing me. Touching me, seeing me, it had been happening right in front of me. And I had been too blind to see it. A loud honk jolted me back to reality. The light had turned green. I wiped my tears and drove to the one place that had always given me comfort, my best friend, Olivia's house. Olivia opened the door within seconds, and the moment she saw my face, she knew. Oh my God, Sandra, she whispered, pulling me into her arms. The dam broke. I sobbed into her shoulder, gripping onto her as if she was the only thing keeping me from collapsing completely. She led me inside, sitting me on the couch, her warm hands rubbing my back. Talk to me, she urged. I sniffled, wiping my nose. I caught him, Liv. In our bed. With her, her body stiffened. That son of a, I don't even know who she is, I cut in, my voice breaking. I don't know anything anymore. Olivia's eyes darkened with anger. I swear to God, if I see him, I will end him. I let out a humorless chuckle. Get in line. She handed me a glass of wine and sat beside me. What are you going to do? I shook my head. I don't know. I don't even know who I am without him. Olivia's gaze softened. Sandra, you are so much more than just his wife. You are strong. You are brilliant. And you deserve better. The words hit me deep, but I wasn't ready to accept them. Not yet, because even after everything he had done, a part of me still loved him. And that was the worst betrayal of all. The wine burned as it slid down my throat, but it did nothing to numb the ache in my chest. Olivia sat beside me, watching me with concerned eyes as I placed the empty glass on the coffee table. "I feel so stupid," I muttered, staring at the patterns on her rug. "You're not stupid, Sandra," Olivia said firmly. "He is. He had a queen and still went searching for cheap thrills." I scoffed. "Some queen I am. A real queen wouldn't have been blindsided like this." She grabbed my hand, squeezing it. "Don't do that to yourself. Don't. He was a liar, and he was good at it. That doesn't make you foolish. It makes him a coward." I swallowed the lump in my throat, but no matter how much I tried, I couldn't silence the self-doubt creeping in. Had I been a bad wife? Had I neglected him somehow, or had he simply outgrown me, like an old suit that no longer fit? I felt Olivia's gaze on me, sharp and knowing. "I can see what you're thinking, and I'm telling you right now, this is not your fault." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But when you love someone for 20 years, when you build a life around them, and they betray you so effortlessly, it makes you question everything, Olivia sighed. "Sandra, you need to do something. You can't just sit in this pain and let it consume you." "What do you suggest?" I asked bitterly. "Should I burn his clothes? Key his car? Expose him to everyone we know?" "I wouldn't stop you," she muttered. "But no. I meant, think about yourself for once. What do you want?" What did I want? I wanted to rewind time, back to when Michael still looked at me like I was the best thing that ever happened to him. Back to when I trusted him. But that was impossible. I shook my head. "I don't know." "Well, you're staying here tonight," Olivia said, standing up. "No arguments." I didn't argue. I was too exhausted to even think about going back to that house, the house that no longer felt like home. The next morning, after an emotional night of crying and venting, I found myself driving back to my house, the house I had spent years decorating, making warm and welcoming. The house where I had raised our children. The house where I had spent countless nights waiting for Michael to come home, never suspecting that another woman had already claimed parts of him, but now, it felt cold. Foreign. Like a place where ghosts of my broken dreams wandered, I stepped inside, inhaling deeply. The air still carried the faint scent of her perfume. That floral scent. I clenched my fists, my stomach twisting with nausea. Michael was sitting at the dining table, sipping coffee as if nothing had happened. As if our world hadn't just imploded. "Morning," he said casually, flipping through his phone. I stared at him, really stared, and for the first time, I didn't recognize the man I had loved for so long. "How can you sit there like this?" I asked quietly. "Like what you did was nothing?" He sighed, placing his phone down. "Sandra, I said I was sorry." "No, you didn't," I interrupted. "You never once said you were sorry." He frowned. "You want me to beg? Is that it?" I let out a bitter laugh. "I don't want your apology, Michael. I want to understand. When did you stop loving me?" His jaw tightened, and for a moment, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, he exhaled. "I don't know. It wasn't sudden. Things just changed." I blinked, my heart squeezing painfully. "I didn't change." "You did." He looked away. "Sandra, we've been married for 20 years. That's a long time." I shook my head in disbelief. "So what? You got bored?" He didn't answer. And that silence told me everything. I felt something in me snap. This man, this selfish, cowardly man, had thrown away everything we built together because he wanted excitement. My lips trembled, but I refused to cry. "Did she know about me?" He hesitated. "Yes." I sucked in a sharp breath. "So she knew you were married, and she wasn't the only one," he muttered. My world tilted. I stumbled back, gripping the edge of the table for support. "What?" He wouldn't look at me. "The woman you saw last night." She's not the first, he admitted. I've had other affairs. My stomach lurched. The pain I had felt last night was nothing compared to what I felt now. I had been drowning in the pain of one betrayal. And now I was learning that it wasn't just one. That my marriage had been a lie for years. I turned and ran to the bathroom just in time to vomit. I don't remember how long I sat on the cold bathroom floor, my entire body trembling. But when I finally gathered the strength to stand, something inside me had changed. I was done crying, done blaming myself, done loving a man who had never truly loved me. When I walked back into the dining room, Michael was still sitting there, drinking his coffee like he hadn't just ripped my heart apart. I straightened my shoulders. I want a divorce. He finally looked at me, surprise flashing across his face. Sandra, don't be dramatic. I let out a dry laugh. Dramatic? I leaned forward, placing both hands on the table. Michael, I gave you everything. I stood by you when you had nothing. I raised our children, built this home, sacrificed my dreams for you. And in return, you gave me betrayal. You gave me lies. You gave me other women. His lips pressed into a thin line. Sandra, no, I cut in. You don't get to speak anymore. You don't get to explain. You made your choice, Michael. And now, I'm making mine. For the first time since I caught him, I saw panic flicker in his eyes. Sandra, don't throw away everything we've built, I scoffed. You threw it away first. Silence. I grabbed my purse, my heart hammering. I'll have my lawyer contact you. And with that, I walked out of the house that no longer felt like home, leaving behind 20 years of love, lies, and wasted devotion. The cold air hit my face as I stepped out of the house that had once been my sanctuary. I inhaled deeply, but instead of finding relief, I felt like a part of me had been ripped away. My legs trembled, but I forced myself to walk to my car. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles turning white as my mind replayed the last few moments. He wasn't even sorry. He didn't fight for me. He just sat there, sipping his coffee, as if my pain meant nothing. Tears welled up, but I swallowed them down. No more crying. I had spent too many nights shedding tears over a man who never deserved them. My phone buzzed in my lap. I hesitated before picking it up. Mom? It was my daughter, Kayla. I cleared my throat, forcing my voice to be steady. Hey, sweetheart. I called Dad, but he's not picking up. There was hesitation in her voice. Is everything okay? I gripped the phone tighter. My kids. My beautiful, innocent children. How was I going to tell them that the life they had known was a lie, Sandra? She pressed. I took a shaky breath. Kayla. There's something I need to tell you and your brother. Can you both come over tomorrow? Silence. Then, a soft, Mom, what's going on? I blinked away tears. I promise I'll explain tomorrow. The next evening, Kayla and Ryan sat on my couch, their faces full of worry. Mom, you're scaring us, Ryan finally said. Where's Dad? I rubbed my temples. Your father and I are getting a divorce. The room went silent. Kayla's eyes widened. What? Ryan frowned. Wait, what happened? You guys were fine last week. I let out a shaky laugh. No, we weren't. I just didn't know it. I looked at their young faces, the faces I had spent years nurturing, protecting. And now, I had to tell them something that would shatter their world. I swallowed hard. Your father. He's been unfaithful. Kayla's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Oh my God. Ryan clenched his jaw. That bastard. Ryan, no, Mom. Don't defend him. His voice shook with anger. How long? I looked away. A long time. Kayla's tears fell freely. How could he do this to you? Ryan stood up abruptly, pacing the room. I swear, if I see him, I'm going to. I grabbed his arm. No. You're not going to do anything. He turned to me, his expression a mixture of pain and fury. How can you be so calm? I gave him a sad smile. I'm not. But I've wasted enough energy crying over him. Kayla wiped her tears. What do we do now? I exhaled. We move forward. Week passed. I had moved into a temporary apartment while the divorce process began. I had filed for alimony and was determined to get what I deserved. Then, one evening, my phone rang. Michael, I stared at the screen, debating whether to answer. I did. What do you want? His voice was softer than I had ever heard it. Sandra. Can we talk? I scoffed. Now you want to talk? Sandra, please. There was something in his voice. Desperation. I hesitated. Then, against my better judgment, I agreed. I met Michael at a small cafe. He looked different, disheveled, tired. Sandra, he started, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. Get to the point. He sighed. I messed up. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, you just realized that? He exhaled. I thought I wanted something new. Something exciting. But I was wrong. I crossed my arms. Michael, do you think this is a movie? Where you cheat, realize you made a mistake, and then everything magically goes back to normal? He looked pained. I love you, Sandra. I laughed. A hollow, bitter laugh. No, Michael. You love the idea of me. The loyal wife. The woman who never questioned you. The one who sacrificed her dreams for you. Sandra, please. We've been together for 20 years. Can't we fix this? I stared at him. You don't get to break me and then decide when I'm ready to heal. He looked down. I miss you. I stood up. That's not my problem. Weeks turned into months. The divorce was finalized. I got what I deserved, and for the first time in decades, I was free. I traveled. I rediscovered old hobbies. I started living for myself. One evening, as I sat at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city, a man approached me. Excuse me, he said with a warm smile. Is this seat taken? I looked at him, really looked at him. He was kind, confident. A stranger, and for the first time in a long time, I smiled. No, I said. It's not. And just like that, a new chapter began. As the man sat across from me, I took a deep breath. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't sitting at a table across from a man who had betrayed me. I wasn't forcing a smile, pretending to be happy while dying inside. This was different. I'm Adrian, he said, extending a hand. His grip was firm but warm. I couldn't help but notice you sitting here alone. You seem at peace, I laughed softly. That's a new one. Most people assume I'm lonely. His eyes studied me, curious yet respectful. Are you? I hesitated, then shook my head. No. For the first time in years, I'm actually happy on my own, Adrian smiled. That's rare. Most people jump from one thing to the next, afraid of being alone. I sipped my wine, feeling a strange sense of comfort in his presence. I was that person. But not anymore. We talked for hours, about life, travel, ambitions, things I had forgotten I cared about. It was refreshing, effortless. But as the night grew darker, so did my thoughts. Was I ready for this? Could I truly open my heart again? Just when I thought I was moving forward, Michael reappeared. He showed up at my apartment one evening, looking desperate. Sandra, I need to talk to you. I sighed. We have nothing left to talk about. He ran a hand through his hair. I made a mistake. I chose wrong. I folded my arms. And now you want me to fix your regrets? His jaw clenched. I lost everything. She left. Took my money, humiliated me. And now, I realize I had the perfect life with you. I stared at him, feeling nothing. No sympathy, no anger. Just indifference. You didn't lose everything, Michael. You threw it away. And now, you expect me to pick up the pieces? His eyes were desperate. We can try again, I cut him off. No, Michael. You can try again. Alone, his shoulders slumped, and for the first time, I saw him as he truly was, small, broken, and powerless. I closed the door, and just like that, I was free. Months passed. Life moved forward. I met Adrian again, not by accident, but by choice. He was patient, understanding. He never rushed me. And somewhere along the way, without even realizing it, I fell in love again. Not the kind of love that blinds you, but the kind that heals you. One evening, as we walked along the beach, Adrian stopped and took my hands in his. You deserve to be loved the right way, Sandra. No betrayals, no doubts. Tears filled my eyes, but this time, they weren't from pain. I nodded. I think I'm finally ready. And as he kissed me under the fading sunset, I knew this was my new beginning. Please subscribe, like, comment and share this video. It means a lot to us. Thank you.